In the face of this horror, the United Kingdom and Sierra Leone, working in partnership, sought to bring this council together to address this humanitarian emergency and catastrophe, to protect civilians, to ensure aid access, to call for a ceasefire. One country stood in the way of the council speaking with one voice. One country is the blocker. One country is the enemy of peace. This Russian veto is a disgrace, and it shows to the world yet again Russia's true colours. Shame on Putin for waging a war of aggression in Ukraine. Shame on Putin for using his mercenaries to spread conflict and violence across the African continent. And shame on Putin for pretending to be a partner of the global south while condemning black Africans to further killing, further rape, further starvation in a brutal war. I asked the Russian representative, in all conscience, sitting there on his phone, how many more Sudanese have to be killed? How many more women have to be raped? How many more children have to go without food before Russia will act? Russia will have to explain itself to the entire United Nations membership now. While Britain doubles aid, Russia blocks aid access. While Britain works with our African partners, Russia vetoes their will. Mean, nasty, and cynical, Russia's veto today sends a message to the warring parties that they can now act with impunity, that they can ignore their commitments and responsibilities to protect their own people. Let me be clear, I will not stop calling for more action to protect the people of Sudan. I will not stop calling for more aid. I will not stop working with our partners in Africa and around the world to help. The UK will not forget Sudan.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for your excellent demonstration of British neocolonialism that really is what we have to dub your statement today. Everybody who heard your complex, pathos-ridden speech really proves why your country is losing influence and power. Distinguished colleagues, the Russian Federation voted against the UK and Sierra Leone draft resolution of the Security Council on Sudan. We agree with all Security Council colleagues that the conflict in Sudan requires a swift resolution. It is also clear that the only way to achieve this is for the warring parties to agree to a ceasefire. We believe that the Security Council's role here is to help them to achieve this. However, this should be consistent and open and should not be done by imposing upon the Sudanese, through a council decision, the opinion of its individual members, flavoured with their post-colonial flavourings as to how the future country should be. And in particular, the council should not play into the hands of the desire of the former metropole to score points in the eyes of the Sudanese diaspora in the UK. Such plans of our Western colleagues are also surprising because the Security Council previous calls to the Rapid Support Forces to stop the siege of El Fasher and other towns in the text that we proposed, these calls have now been changed with new warped wording that proposes the fighters should refrain and halt their attacks just against civilians. Therefore, this resolution essentially is proposing encouragement of the ongoing hostilities. Finally, it's important to throw out double standards that, in the case of Sudan, seem to be particularly egregious. Those very countries who, regarding Sudan, are calling loud and clear of the need for a ceasefire and requiring both parties to halt violence and to protect civilians, well, in the case of Gaza, are giving carte blanche to Israel to continue the escalation and are paying no heed whatsoever to the egregious violations of international humanitarian law by the Israeli army.
It is shocking that Russia has vetoed an effort to save lives, though perhaps it shouldn't be. They claim it is because of Sudanese sovereignty, but Sudan supports the resolution. For months, Russia has obstructed and obfuscated, standing in the way of council action to address the catastrophic situation in Sudan, and playing both sides of the conflict to advance its own political objectives at the expense of Sudanese lives. Today, the Council would have come together to call for a comprehensive nationwide ceasefire. It's unconscionable that Russia would callously and cynically stand in the way of demanding these actions, actions to save lives in the world's worst humanitarian crisis. And we don't need to be lectured by Russia on hypocrisy, a hypocrisy that they exhibit every day in Ukraine, where Ukrainian sovereignty is not being respected and civilian facilities are being attacked daily.